What we have with us here today is the Mercedes-AMG GLE 63 S Coupe 4MATIC Plus. Now that is a long name and I hope I got everything in the right order. But the main point of this car is that it packs everything. In the sense, this is a car that has the best of all worlds. You want sports car like handling and performance? Well, it has got that. You want big butch looks and practicality of an SUV? It has got that as well. You want stylish coupe looks? Well, it also packs that. You want the traction, grip and security of all-wheel drive? It has that as well. So as its name suggests, it is sort of a jack of all trades. But is it actually the case? Is this an perfect all-rounder? Or is this a compromise on all fronts? Well, that's what we are about to find out. The party piece of the GLE 63 is of course its engine, and it is powered by a 4-litre V8 engine. This one develops 604 bhp and 850 Nm of torque. So that is a lot of power in hand. But at the same time, this is a heavy car. It weighs nearly 2.4 tons, so you need that kind of performance. Having said that, everything here is physics defying because this thing can do 0 to 100 in just 3.8 seconds. Now that is quick. However, there's a catch because this car comes with a 9-speed torque converter. It doesn't get a launch control system. That is only reserved for the dual clutch or MCT, which is a multi-plate clutch with the same gearbox. So this one doesn't get launch control. So it can get tricky if you want that perfect launch. In terms of performance, well, there is absolutely no problem. This car, it just shoots forward despite the weight, despite how tall it is, the way it goes, it just beggars belief because this car is just mad powerful. So in straight line speed, absolutely, it feels like a supercar. It has the speed. It all feels a little weird. It doesn't feel natural because there's again, like I said, it's a tall car and it is a heavy car at that. It doesn't feel natural, but there is that definite go and it feels absolutely bonkers. And when you're at it, the V8 produces those mad noises. Well, of course, it doesn't feel as loud, but it does that typical AMG bits. It growls, it howls, and it feels absolutely mental. Now, of course, that is there. But apart from that, there are a couple of glitches, and I'll start with the gearbox. It is a 9-speed torque converter, like I just mentioned. But in this car, it doesn't feel as quick. It feels a little slow, especially during downshifts. And at low speeds, at city speeds, it feels a little lurchy as well. There's a sudden pause when you mash the throttle and it just doesn't go. That is of course at city speeds, so you can catch the gearbox napping at times. The other thing is there are a lot of modes in this car. It has this nice rotary dial around here on the steering wheel, so you can change between the modes. It has comfort, it has sport, sport plus and race mode as well. It alters the steering, it alters the air suspension, it alters your transmission, everything, the response from the whole drivetrain. And you also have these shortcut buttons on the left side of the steering wheel. From here you can change the intensity of the exhaust, and you can also change between different modes. You want to go into manual mode. There are a lot of combinations in the sense from the suspension, from the steering, from the engine. So there is a lot of do. But if you find that right setting, which I thought in my case happens to be sport mode in comfort suspension. So for everyday driving, I thought that was the best mode because in comfort mode, the gearbox is very slow, and in sport plus and race mode, it is very lurchy and jerky. So in sports mode, it feels perfect. As for the suspension, of course, this is an AMG car and it has a hard ride. So it doesn't have the same sort of plush ride feeling of a regular GLE. But this one, despite the suspension and despite its 22-inch wheels, low profile wheels, the ride is actually quite acceptable. It doesn't feel jarring or it's not jittery like that. It's actually quite acceptable. Yes, in terms of outright comfort, it's not your typical Mercedes car, but as a sports car, it's actually quite good. The ride, especially at low speeds, it is bouncy, of course. Like I said, it's an AMG car. But overall, I'd say it's not that bad. Now, on the flip side, because of that AMG suspension, because of that tuning, this car, it absolutely handles like a sports car. And that's true because it is an AMG. When you put it in Sport Plus or race mode, the suspension firms up and it goes around corners like a sports car. The only thing is, like I said in the beginning, it doesn't feel natural because you're sitting so high up and it's a big car, it's a very wide car. But if you are confident, which comes over time because pushing a car, 2.5 tons car, this heavy, this tall, around bends, it is going to take some time to get used to this sort of behavior. But yeah, it is amazing in the way this car handles. It feels planted all the time and it is great. Yes, it's probably not the best car in its segment because it definitely feels heavy around bends, like something like a Macan or a Porsche Cayenne Sport or even the X5M, I think those cars feel more agile than this. But this, I think, has a lot more character because of the AMG lettering and that engine. It has a lot more character. So this is a proper hoot to drive in that way. The other thing I felt when you're driving this car fast, it picks up pace really briskly. It's mind-blowingly quick. But the thing I felt was that because of the weight, because of the suspension, it doesn't feel that confidence inspiring. You really have to be wide awake, to drive this car fast. In the traffic, it's a big car and you are always tempted to drive it fast. So you have to be careful if you're driving it in the city. But if you want to take it on the track or your favorite bit of twisty roads, well, I think this car is going to be very, very rewarding. So the GLE 63 AMG is definitely an AMG because it's a mad car, it's madly powerful, it's super quick, and of course it handles like a sports car as well. So initially when I said, is it the best of all worlds or is it in compromise? Well, to be honest, it's not best at everything, but it's not a compromise either, because this car, this has its own character. It does everything. So let's just call it a jack of all trades because it does everything. And if you want a performance car and you want practicality as well, I think this has everything going for it. Now, yes, it's not an outright performance car and neither is it an SUV in the sense it's not that rugged, but it takes that solid middle path, in the sense you get the practicality for our Indian roads and you get the performance that is typical AMG. And on top of that, it also looks quite stylish. Now, of course, its design is a bit controversial because coupe SUVs, they are not to everyone's liking, but I think it looks kind of cool, it's unique and it has its appeal. The only thing that I'm not quite convinced about is the pricing, because this one is around 2.10 crore ex-showroom. And that is a lot of money for a car this size. And of course, the only thing is, it is expensive, it has got everything, but it doesn't feel that special because you also have the GLE 53 AMG, which is more or less visually the same car. Performance wise, of course, it doesn't have that same kind of performance, but for our road conditions, it has enough power. So the problem that I have here is the fact that it's too expensive. And if I had that kind of money, I wouldn't mind spending 50-60 lakh more and going for the G63 AMG, because that is the ultimate car, in the sense that's what Mercedes stands for. That is the perfect SUV. It's actually more comfortable as well, and it has got that brutal AMG appeal and that brutal AMG power. So for me, I think that car makes a little more sense. Of course, it's a lot more expensive, but you're so close to that car, so close to attaining that car. So I think in that regard, that's where the GLE 63S loses out. But then if you want a coupe SUV that's stylish, that has the performance of a proper AMG car, that can do it all, well, of course, there is definitely no beating the GLE 63S Coupe 4MATIC Plus.